ignored. Indeed, Speaker, the standing orders require that we refer to each other as senator. So when Senator Mwenda Gataya wants to show us his family tree here by referring to his uncles and aunties, I think he's out of order, Honorable Speaker.
And Uncle Senator Enoch. Uncle Senator Enoch.
The fact remains that Senator Wambua is an uncle, and this is a fact. And I'm happy that he has brought this statement before this House. I remember some 6 months ago, I brought the same statement of High Grand Force Kidaruma, which has been in the talk of those two counties for quite a number. Quite a number of couple of months.
Grand Force Kindaruma?
No, Grand Force Kiboka.
Okay.
Not Kidaruma, sorry, Honorable Speaker. You know, Honorable Speaker, such a huge project has a huge social implication, especially to the residents of both counties, both Kitui and Tharaka County. And it's very abnormal, Honorable Speaker, to see people going up and down, trying to make some interventions without involving both political and local administrators on the ground. Honorable Speaker, we have not witnessed even a single incident where residents have been subjected to public participation. We only see people come there, make some surveys here and there, and this is the high time, Honorable Speaker, as leadership. We categorically stand and say that this project cannot be initiated without the blessings of the political leadership and the representatives on the ground. Honorable Speaker, the place where this Grand Force is supposed to land as some historical settlement. People have been living there for close to almost 500 years. So you expect, Honorable Speaker, where you have buried your grandfather, where you have buried your father, where you have buried your kinsmen, those people are evacuated without even getting to know where those people are supposed to be given land. We have not even known the value on which that land is supposed to be paid. We must have a very serious conversation so that as leadership we know exactly, once these people are removed from these places, where are they going to be taken? What is the value of the land as at now? So, Honorable Speaker, I stand to agree with Senator Enoch that both leadership, the political leadership from Kitui, the political leadership from Tharaka, the local administrators, and the locals in both the counties must be involved fully to make sure that we get to know exactly what is happening. Because we know, Honorable Speaker, there could be some fraudsters who really want to deceive people in trying to make sure that they do a dam without the actual benefit to the people on the ground. I strongly support, Honorable Speaker.
Senators, just make a 2-minute comment, just a comment kindly, so that we make progress. We have so many other statements lined up under 53.1. Senator Manzo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I really want to agree with the two senators, the senator for Kitui and the senator for Tharaka. Mr. Speaker, I went through this as a member of parliament when we did Thwake Dam in Makueni, which would have been completed 5 years ago, has delayed, has even become more expensive. But Mr. Speaker, it is true. Even resettling, people is a very difficult matter, and especially where they had buried their loved ones, homestead have to be cleared, and Mr. Speaker, you've got to find new graves for all the graves. And it was so complicated, Mr. Speaker, because of the compensation. I want to agree public participation is very important. They need to educate the people around that site. And it's one of the Vision 2030 flagships, Mr. Speaker. And this water will help Tharaka, this water will help Kitui, and will go all the way to northern Kenya, and will also control the floods downstream. The reason why Senator Mugatana is not here because his people are afflicted by floods downstream in Tana River. That will sort it out. Irrigation will also go. But, Mr. Speaker, it is a high time the government took the matter very seriously. And even when they do the employment, Mr. Speaker, the people of Makueni really never benefited. There's something called local contracts. Everything ended up with the people from other parts of the world, including non-Kenyans, who are the greatest beneficiaries of the Thwake Dam project. So when you compare it with this, Mr. Speaker, I really want to encourage the two senators actually to approach the two governors and the leaderships of the two counties to engage the national government on this particular matter, so that when the dam becomes smooth, completed on time, and does not give us problems, as we have seen in Makueni, Mr. Speaker. I thank you. I support.
Senator Wamatinga Wahome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. I also raise to support the spirit on which Senator Enoch Wambua has released his statement, but I would want to unleash his understanding on project management and project initiation in the spirit of one Kenya, Mr. Speaker, sir. It has been said, and truth-free source, that Senator Mugatana has been a victim of water that is overflowing from the Seven Forks Dam. Mr. Speaker, sir, if we embrace a one Kenya approach, where we look at one community benefiting as a benefit for all Kenyans, then we would embrace the spirit of a project that benefits 2 or 3 counties will at long run benefit also the rest of the country. Mr. Speaker, sir, yes, I do support the spirit of public participation. It is indeed the approach of the World Bank on donor-funded project that the first ingredient of such a project is public participation. However, before that is conducted, there must be geotechnical survey, there must be a lot of fact-finding survey to establish whether the geotechnical composition of the soils and the rocks in that area will be able to support a 5 billion cubic meter dam. That's one. Then there must also be other questions that might be raised. And this, Mr. Speaker, is maybe the high time that we start a conversation on how to deal with land issues and land compensation. Because we know that, Mr. Speaker, sir, things that were conceptualized in the 60s, in the 70s, because of lack of proper town and urban planning, we found ourselves that people have built in waterways. We found that people have built in areas that were earmarked for highways. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, it is our duty and our obligation as a House to come up with an approach that will be accommodative enough so that whenever we have such a project as has been noted in Makueni, the Thwake Dam, we do not need to reinvent the wheel every time we have a mega project like that, but we can do copy and paste, and that can only be done if we put the legal policy and legislative framework in place so that whenever we have such a project, we can be able to borrow from the experiences learned in the past projects without replicating the costs that goes with it. Mr. Speaker, that is the conversation that we must have as a country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Senator Professor Ojienda Odhiambo. Comment on this statement or something else?
Mr. Speaker, I will wait to do my statement, then I'll comprehensively address the statement of Senator Wambua.
Senator Okech, Andy?
Mr. Speaker, I just want to support and actually appreciate the Senator for Kitui for bringing this to our attention. Where you're going to have 400 billion shillings being invested, Mr. Speaker, is not a small investment. And that investment, Mr. Speaker, as well put by the Senator, is going to encompass an area of, a square kilometer area of 58 kilometers by 8 kilometers, Mr. Speaker, which is a lot of impact. Just to start with, Mr. Speaker, this is the house that is supposed to protect devolution. A dam is at the heart of thinking about serious water reservoirs in any economy, Mr. Speaker. If the House, such as the Senate, is not involved and elected leaders at the level of even the Senator of Kitui is not involved, Mr. Speaker, is just wrong. And we have seen a number of places, Mr. Speaker, where these dams are like every other evil, where the path to any evil is always paved with good intentions. And those good intentions have been expressed here as massive benefit that the people of Kitui and the people of Tharaka Nithi are supposed to benefit from, Mr. Speaker. But then the hazards are just as equally important to look at as you look at benefits. Because one of the things that we have seen, Mr. Speaker, is that when these dams burst, massive lives are lost, and the entire ecosystem of that region is lost, whether it is from flora to fauna, Mr. Speaker, and also just the ecosystem of the economic population of those regions, Mr. Speaker. So this is a very important project, Mr. Speaker, that we keep on seeing, especially the national government, having a hand with different corporate organizations in a PPP arrangement, Mr. Speaker, that does not recognize that they are elected leaders who are very important. I've seen even this in my own area, Mr. Speaker, where Gogo Dam, found in Uriri constituency, there is an allocation of 3 billion that has already been put in place, and already some people are thinking about getting serious, investors and contractors to come and start doing the site there, but there hasn't been proper compensation conversation on the people who are in those land. Where you're going to put 3 billion in Gogo Dam in Migori County, in Uriri, there needs to be a conversation because there's ancestral land, there's communal land that people must look at. And Mr. Speaker, the worst thing is, as I finish, sometimes you get to a point where these mega projects come in place and the people end up being promised to be compensated, and then it becomes a serious, prolonged battle between them and the contractors on site, between them and the investors, and then between them and the national government. A case in example is what I gave today in the morning, Mr. Speaker, where if you go to Nyatike in Migori County, a mega rice project that was put there, Mr. Speaker, up to today, 6 years later, the National Irrigation Authority in Kenya has not been able to properly compensate farmers there, and their land is under use. Paddy rice is leaving that particular region, going to Uganda, going to Mwea, but these people have never been compensated. This must never happen to the people of Kitui, and this must never happen to the people of Tharaka Nithi. We need to arrest this issue right now, as the Senator of Kitui has rightfully brought it to the attention of this House, and we must be able to force a conversation with the elected leaders of Kitui and Tharaka Nithi. I support that statement, and I hope that it will be given the attention that is deserved by this House. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Abdulrahman Abdullahi Milaj. Okay, then we go to the next order.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa nafasi hii. Ningependa kuchangia mjadala wa bwawa la maji ambalo Mheshimiwa Senator wa Kitui ameelezea kwayo kwamba ni muhimu serikali inapo ratibu na kuweka mipangilio ya kuwekeza katika sekta ya maji iwahusishe washikadau wote, kwa sababu hao ndio chanzo cha rasilimali ambayo tunajadili sasa. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mwafrika ni mtu ambaye ana itikadi na historia yake. Na iwapo historia na itikadi zake haziwezi heshimika, ni dhahiri shairi kwamba huyu mtu hana thamani yoyote. Na ndio kwa sababu naunga Senator wa Kitui mkono. Ni lazima mababu waliotutangulia walipozikwa na palipokuwa na sherehe za kitamaduni, maeneo hayo lazima yapewe kipaumbele katika kufidia serikali za kaunti na jamii husika. Kuna sehemu za ibada ambazo lazima vile vile zishughulikiwe. Mheshimiwa Spika, mbuga za wanyama na uwekezaji katika kaunti hizi, Mheshimiwa Spika, lazima serikali iwape watu hawa kipaumbele. Na hatutakubali, ningeomba Mheshimiwa Spika upeane mwelekeo mawaziri husika katika sekta hii ya maji. Kando na kujadili hoja ya Tharaka Nithi na Kitui na bwawa hili, kuna mabwawa mengine katika nchi ya Kenya ambayo yako katika mikakati ya serikali ya Kenya Kwanza. Lazima wawajibike, waelezee nchi na seneti ni mikakati ipi ambayo wataweka kuhakikisha kwamba changamoto ambayo watu wa kaunti ya Tharaka Nithi na Kitui wanapitia, kaunti zingine hazitapewa nafasi kama hii ya kuja na kutoa lalama katika jumba la Senate. Tharaka Nithi na Kitui ziwe kaunti ambazo zinapeana mwelekeo ya jinsi miradi ya serikali ya mabwawa ya maji na unyunyizaji mashamba itakavyokuwa inatekelezwa kutoka sasa na kwenda mbele. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Senator Buru Oginga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to take this opportunity to thank my minority leader, Senator Wambua, for bringing to attention of this House the issue of the dam being constructed downstream the Tana River. Mr. Speaker, this is affecting the counties of Tharaka Nithi and Kitui. Mr. Speaker, the issues he has brought up of public participation cannot be gainsaid. These are very, very important issues, and we know, for instance, between at Sondu Soin Dam, between the county of Kericho and the county of Kisumu, there were issues of public participation. There are ancestral land which was being affected. And first of all, there was a hurry to implement the project without consulting the people. And even the donors themselves who contribute to these projects are very sensitive when the people complain and when people say that they are not consulted and they don't know about the project, or the project is going to affect their ancestral land. Some of them have some very, very aesthetic values to the land and attachment to the land, which is where they are being removed, and they have to know exactly how they are going to be compensated. I know on this Sondu Miriu project, the people complained, and the Parliament of Japan stopped implementation of that project simply because of the complaint of the people that they were not consulted and that the people downstream were going to be seriously affected by the implementation of that dam, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, it is therefore very important that we have public participation. I had a project in my own constituency when I was MP for Bondo on the Yala River, where an investor was constructing a dam, but there was a method called contour, and there's another method where you dig deeply, so the dam goes deeper. But it takes a very small area. But when you do the contour, it expands in a larger area, Mr. Speaker, and therefore the people have access and their cattle can drink water from the dam. But the other method will deny the community the possibility of their animals having access and their people having access to that water. Mr. Speaker, the people decided that they will have the contour method, but then the dam was now consuming much bigger area than they had contemplated, Mr. Speaker. So there must be proper planning, proper consultation, proper compensation for the people before a project of that size is implemented. We know the economic benefits the country is going to get from such a dam. First, it controls floods downstream. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, it can be used to produce electricity. And thirdly, Mr. Speaker, it can also be used to produce drinking water for the population. And fourth, Mr. Speaker, it can also be used as a tourist attraction, like the Aswan Dam in Egypt, Mr. Speaker, is used by Egypt. They are drawing water from our place, Lake Victoria, and they are using it to attract tourism in their area. They have big hotels constructed around, the boats going around there, and it is attracting a lot of tourists from the whole world going to see Aswan Dam, Mr. Speaker. So these dams can bring a lot of benefits, tourism, and other economic benefits to the country, Mr. Speaker. But they need to be carefully planned in full consultation with the people. Public participation must be stressed. It is very, very important, Mr. Speaker, and I support the statement by my leader, Senator Wambua. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chalgay, just 2 minutes, then 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to support Senator Enoch Wambua and Senator Mwenda Gathaya more fire for bringing this issue. I'm happy that the people there are not objecting the construction of the High Grand Falls Dam that is between Kitui and Tharaka Nithi, but I've realized there is an abuse of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, because the salient features that Senator Wambua has raised is on the issue of non-compensation. Property rights under Article 40 is very clear that when you are doing compulsory acquisition of land, it must be paid within the market value and it must be prompt. If that one has not been paid, then GBM UK must tell us why. Number 2, Article 118 and Article 10 talks about the salient feature of a democracy called public participation. If it has not been done, what are they hiding? Are these night runners? Are they doing something they fear that the people might oppose, Mr. Speaker? They should do public participation, not as a privilege, to the satisfaction of the law. We are not saying they should see the senator of Kitui or Tharaka or leadership of anybody. We are saying let them follow the law as is and as is prescribed, Mr. Speaker. The third point, Mr. Speaker, I saw in Mwache Dam, and Mwache Dam had a lot of issues, Mr. Speaker, and the issue of ancestral land, attachment, sacred places, they were compensated for their graves. And they were given time in Mwache Dam to even relocate their graves, Mr. Speaker. Because when you go to South America, they don't bury the dead. They walk around with their dead as they wash and change after every year. So can the wishes of the people of Tharaka and Kitui be respected to relocate their graves? Mr. Speaker, you remember this issue we experienced in Nandi when they were relocating my people from Tindret to Kabiyet. And the Wazungus then told them, Mr. Speaker, that you go, the Aik, and the spirits will follow you, Mr. Speaker. So I support this petition. I hope when it comes, Senator Wambua and Senator Tharaka, please invite us so that we can have a conversation on this. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Vaz, must you really say something on this? Must you?
No, I'll add something.
Okay, please. Just 2 minutes, please.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, first and foremost, I want to thank the Senate for Kitui. I think what he has brought up is actually a very important issue that impacts on many, many communities that's actually in the past experiences. Most of the projects like the mega dams like this one, which is being constructed, the public is rarely involved. It only involves few government officers. It involves few gatekeepers who call themselves the local leaders. And at the end of the day, the beneficiaries or the owners of the land are not compensated and have a lot of problems. Because there will be a lot of socio-economic issues that will come up. People's farms are being displaced. Grazing land is being displaced. So there are a lot of socio-economic impacts that we need to do before this dam is built, constructed, I mean. So I think it is very important to have the public participation, and the public should be informed, because most of our public don't understand the whole concept. They will just be told, oh, we are building a dam, we are doing this for your benefit, and then at the end of the day, the big dams like Michigan Dam and all these things, many people have been displaced, and at times these same people go without water. At times of drought, they don't even get services from those guys. The people, their farms have been displaced, they are not given any compensation. So they are almost, every project, that mega project comes, the public is actually displaced. One other thing is actually this same dam will have a lot of impact in the replica effect on the downstream people, where today we are saying so many farms have been destroyed, and these people have not been even involved. So I think what the senator is saying is actually we really appreciate, and there is need to at least go further and to challenge all those people who are involved in the things of government officers. You know what happened in SGR? There are so many people who have been told that the land will be compensated, and up to date they're waiting for the money. And that money has already been paid, and nobody has been compensated. With those few contributions, I want to support the statement. Thank you.
Senator Karunda Mbeth, 1.5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving this opportunity to support the statement by my senator, my leader, Senator Enoch Wambua. Mr. Speaker, I will only speak on two things. One is on the compensation of the residents of Kitui and Tharaka Nithi. Mr. Speaker, sir, we have seen in other instances and other places where foreigners or people from outside the affected counties come and buy land in a specific area for them to be compensated, and the true residents or the real people who should benefit then are left out. This must be carefully handled to make sure the residents of Kitui and Tharaka Nithi are the ones to benefit. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, we know corruption is very ripe in this country, and we need proper mechanisms of implementation so that when the work is happening or taking place, real work is done, so that money is not paid and the work is not done, or maybe poorly done or substandard work, and then money will get lost. Finally, Mr. Speaker, allow me to speak on the benefits that will come from the High Grand Falls Dam. As one of my colleagues, Senator for Siaya, has already alluded, that electricity, irrigation, and so many other benefits that come out of the project. This must benefit the real people of the two affected counties, and will also bring development to our country, great country, Kenya, but not to benefit those who have come as partners or those who purport to bring the PPP, and then they are the ones who have the greater benefits, but Kenyans are left languishing in poverty. I do.
Thank you. This project, Mr. Senator Wambua, you see, has really generated a lot of interest. And under 52.1, you know, this statement is just an interest or topical concern. So maybe you can follow up so that the CS Water and Irrigation can come and update the Senate on the plans that they are doing on this particular project. It is in Tharaka Nithi, but the ecosystem, including Wajir, Garissa, Meru, all that area will be affected by that big project. I'm told it is second from Aswan High Dam in Egypt. So maybe you can go that route so that the CS can come and update the Senate on this project.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for pointing me to that direction. Mr. Speaker, can I plead with the chair that you direct me to liaise with the PS for purposes of the PS appearing before the House to appraise the House on this matter.
The CS, not the PS.
The CS.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Speaker, if I could really ask you to direct that way, then it will make my work very easy.
I so direct.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The next is Senator Kinyua, Laikipia County. Absent, that statement is dropped. Next is Senator Karenyamu.
Mr. Speaker, I don't understand what is the excitement.
You should be happy that there is that excitement.
Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 52.1 to make a statement on an issue of general topical concern and national importance, namely the state of the roads in the country. Mr. Speaker, the importance of roads in the day-to-day lives of citizens. Mr. Speaker, protect me from Senator Cherelgei thumping and making too much noise with his feet. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, the importance of roads in the day-to-day lives of citizens cannot be overemphasized, as they are a critical infrastructure enabling ease of movement of people and goods. Unfortunately, many of our roads are in poor condition, characterized by large potholes, inadequate or non-existent road signs, and insufficient markings. The state of our roads has impacted users and the country at large negatively, most notably the increase in road accidents. Mr. Speaker, we acknowledge that while many road accidents are caused by overspeeding, reckless driving, loss of control by drivers, and drunk driving, as exemplified by the recent Bagathi River accident where a Nairobi-bound Naboka Sacco bus plunged into the river, resulting in 9 fatalities. The dilapidated condition of our roads has also significantly contributed to numerous accidents across the country. And I take this opportunity to extend my condolences to the family of the Mbagathi River accident victims. Mr. Speaker, poor road networks in many parts of the country have led to job losses, wasted time, and increased operating costs. Despite the government's efforts to improve the transport infrastructure, some major roads remain in poor state. According to the International Monetary Fund, IMF, poor roads in developing countries hinder inclusive growth. Mr. Speaker, I believe that some of our roads can be redesigned in order to improve road safety. For example, the 21-kilometer stretch at Salga, once an accident black spot, saw a reduction in accidents by over 90% after a concrete barrier was constructed in 2018. Mr. Speaker, the government must develop tangible solutions to the challenges facing our road network, not only in Nairobi and major cities, but across the entire country. Roads are essential to meeting the needs of the Kenyan economy and the population at large. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, Kenya registered approximately 48 fatalities per 100,000 people. There is no reason why Kenya should not improve its road safety score by ensuring roads are designated and constructed with safety in mind. I urge the government to deploy all measures necessary to reduce road accidents, fatalities. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Now we go to the statements under 53.1. We start with I urge Senator for Kisumu County to read these 2 statements. First.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have 2 statements. I will start with the statement on the state of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga grounds and the Victoria Park and the establishment of other parks in Kisumu County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare regarding the state of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga grounds and Victoria Park, which were closed for renovation in 2020 and reopened in 2024 with slight modifications, as well as the establishment of other public parks in Kisumu County. Target 7, Sustainable Development Goals, SDG number 11, to which Kisumu County fully subscribes, requires that the county should provide universal access to safe, inclusive, accessible, and green public spaces for all residents by the year 2030. In a statement, the committee should, Mr. Speaker, 1, provide a breakdown of the funds allocated for the renovation of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Sports Ground and Victoria Park in Kisumu County, a list of companies contracted to undertake the works, and table documentary evidence indicating whether the right channels of procurement were followed in awarding the contracts. 2, find the variance between the architectural designs and the completed projects, if any, stating any cost implications. 3, establish whether there are plans to allow traders to operate their businesses in the parks and the criteria to be used in allocating space to the said traders. And lastly, state any plans by the county government to develop similar parks and recreation spaces in Muhoroni, Nyakach, Nyando, Kisumu East, Kisumu West, and semi-sub-counties in Kisumu County, indicating the budgetary allocations and completion timelines for such projects. Mr. Speaker, sir, my second statement is on the state of early childhood development education, ECD, in Kisumu County. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education regarding the state of early childhood development, or ECD, centers in Kisumu County. Article 186 of the Kenya Constitution 2010, as read together with Section 9 of Part 2 of the 4th Schedule, devolves pre-primary education and child care facilities to the county government. Additionally, Section 5 of the County Government Act 2012 provides for the functions and powers of county governments, including the establishment, management, and regulation of ECD centers. In the statement, Mr. Speaker, the committee should, 1, provide an overview of the current status of all early childhood ECDs facilities in Kisumu County, indicating rationale for building new ECD centers instead of completing the existing ones. 2, provide details of all teachers employed in each of the ECD centers in the county, stating their qualifications and remuneration, including any other benefits paid to them. 3, state steps the county government has taken to improve the quality of learning and training programs provided in ECD centers in the county. And lastly, establish the criteria used to determine which ECD projects are prioritized for completion and state measures in place to address the challenges faced in the construction of ECD centers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Minda Kibwana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My statement is on a fatal altercation involving Kenya Forest Service officer and the late Master Stephen Mwangi at Maji Mazuri in Eldama Ravine. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding the circumstances leading to the fatal altercation involving Master Stephen Mwangi, a Form 3 student at Maji Mazuri Day School, and Kenya Forest Service KFS officers at Maji Mazuri in Eldama Ravine, Baringo County. In the statement, the committee should provide a detailed account of the events leading to the fatal altercation between Master Stephen Mwangi and Kenya Forest Service officers, including the actions that transpired before, during, and after the altercations. Number 2, disclose the status of investigations into the unfortunate incident, including the parties involved in the altercations and any preliminary findings or outcomes of such investigation. Number 3, give a review of the general conduct and protocols observed by KFS officers in executing their duties, particularly in matters involving public engagement and enforcing activities within the forests in Kenya. Number 4, elucidate whether there are many existing policies, guidelines, or training programs in place to KFS officers regarding engagement with civilians and conflict resolution strategies. And number 5, highlight measures being taken or proposed by the government to prevent similar incidents in the future with a view to improve accountability, ensuring the protection of citizens' rights during law enforcement operations. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mbete Montet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Request for a statement on the operations of the National Council for Nomadic Education in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education regarding the operations of the National Council of Nomadic Education in Kenya. In the statement, the committee should, 1, table a report of schools and programs per county founded by the council from 2015 to date. Number 2, provide details of the budget allocation for the council from 2015 to date, including any other funding by stakeholders and development partners. Number 3, state the criteria used in determination of the learning institutions under the council and the manner of implementation of the programs and whether there are any plans by the council to expand the program to cover learners in areas that were hard hit by recent floods. And finally, explain whether the council contracts companies to run the programs under them and also tabling a list of companies contracted and all specifics of the contracts. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. Ladies are doing so well this afternoon. Senator Shakila Abdallah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Request for statement on transportation challenges along Lamu-Gariseni Road at Gamba, Tana River County. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Transport and Housing concerning the recent flooding and transportation challenges along the Lamu-Gariseni Road at Gamba, Tana River County. On the statement, committee should, number one, detail measures the government has implemented to provide alternative means of transportation, such as the deployment of Kenya Navy rescue boats in response to the limitation of small private boats which have proven unsafe, as highlighted by incidents like the Madogo boat accident at the Tana River. Number two, explain the immediate measures the government has taken to ensure the safety of residents currently using private boats to navigate flood areas in Gamba. Number three, state how the government is coordinating with local emergency services and disaster response teams to assist the affected population and ensure timely and effective transportation solution during the crisis, providing details on the nature of these collaborations. And number four, outline the long-term infrastructure project being considered to ensure the safe transportation in Gamba, given the annual recurrence of the transportation challenges every year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Good. Senator Chalgai Samson. You have 3 statements. We will read them simultaneously.
Mr. Speaker, I'll try and read, and thank you. Request for a statement on the status of dam construction projects in the country. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources regarding the status of dam construction projects in the country. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide a status update on the construction of Umar and Basada dams in Kitui County and Marsabit County, respectively, explaining any variation in the bill of quantities and or contractual commencement plus completion dates. Mr. Speaker, number 2, evaluate whether due process was followed in tendering and awarding of the contracts for the construction of the said dams. Number 3, Mr. Speaker, disclose the identities of the respective contractors and subcontractors, providing a breakdown of all payments made to each so far, along with the reasons for the payments. Number 4, Mr. Speaker, provide a status update on all other incomplete projects for the construction of dams in the country, provide a list of the respective contractors and the payments made to them so far. And finally, Mr. Speaker, on this statement, outline any actions taken against persons responsible for misappropriation of funds or irregular variation of the terms of contract for the projects, stating whether the committee could order a special audit of the projects by Office of the Auditor General. Mr. Speaker, number 2, request for statement on collection by Kenya Revenue Authority, KRA, for the financial year 2023-2024. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the Kenya Revenue Authority, KRA, revenue collection targets for the financial year 2023-2024. Mr. Speaker, in the statement, the committee should, 1, state the measures that have been put in place by KRA to ensure that they meet their set target on revenue collection for the financial year 2023-2024. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, sir, state the reasons for the anticipated failure in meeting revenue collection target as reported by KRA, which has observed the tax collector is likely to miss the target by about Kenya shillings 300 billion. So, Speaker, number 3, provide reasons that led to the decline in pay-as-you-earn or payee collections totaling about Kenya shillings 72.3 billion, despite the Commission having applied new strategies. So, Speaker, sir, appraise the Senate on the systems that have been put in place by KRA to ensure tax compliance by all sectors and improve tax collection in the country. And finally, Mr. Speaker, sir, on this statement, state the measures taken by Kenya Revenue Authority to ensure tax evasion is eradicated, provide details of all pending major tax disputes, and state the amounts collected from the previous disputes. Mr. Speaker, and the final statement that all senators, I request they should listen to keenly, on the junior secondary school. Request for statement despite the industrial action. Request for the statement on the fair labor practice by the Teacher Service Commission, TSC, in the employment of junior secondary schools teachers, JSS. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education regarding the unfair labor practices by the Teacher Service Commission, TSC, in employing duly trained and qualified teachers as interns in junior secondary schools or JSS. In the statement, Mr. Speaker, the committee should, 1, elaborate on any measures by the Ministry of Education as are taken to ensure full implementation of the competent-based curriculum, CBC, especially considering that the teachers are currently overwhelmed, poorly equipped, and unmotivated to implement the CBC. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, clarify why the Teacher Service Commission, TSE, continues to violate the rights of trained teachers by employing them as interns at junior secondary schools, JSS, and retaining them as such, which are over 46,000, for the second consecutive year, despite prior assurances of absorption on permanent terms, then proceeding to recruit new teachers without renewal of contracts of those currently serving as interns in our country. Mr. Speaker, number 3, state the reasons for the Ministry of Education and Teacher Service Commission, TSC, failed to comply with the Employment and Labor Relations Court judgment on petition number E223 of 2023, which found out that the JSS teachers were unfairly treated and discriminated against as they were denied the terms and conditions of service ordinarily enjoyed by trained teachers, explaining whether their terms, including medical cover and pension, will be improved. And finally, Mr. Speaker, sir, state whether the Ministry of Education has completed the process of interviewing teachers for promotion, explaining why Teacher Service Commission, TSC, failed to promote teachers who automatically qualify due to experience, including the junior secondary school teachers who possess similar training as other teachers in secondary school. Senator Samson Kiprotich Cherargei, as the Senator of Embu would say, I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Okay, Senator Wakoli Wafula.
Asante. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding the death of a pedestrian in a hit-and-run accident that occurred near Chabera Shopping Center in Nyamira County. In the statement, the committee should, A, find out the circumstances leading to the death of a pedestrian, Mrs. Ruth Ayuma Inganga, in a hit-and-run accident by a vehicle registration number KCW 636W Toyota Axio near Chabera Shopping Center in Nyamira County. B, state the ongoing efforts by the police to apprehend the driver of the said vehicle for their arraignment before court of law. And C, inform the Senate of the immediate actions taken by the police at Chabera Police Post, where the incident was first reported, to ensure the arrest of the vehicle's driver. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Second statement, Honorable Speaker. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources regarding the status of public land belonging to the county government of Bungoma. In the statement, the committee should, A, provide details on the acreage and location of all parcels of land belonging to the county government of Bungoma, accompanied by the corresponding legal documentation that proves ownership. B, clarify whether the said parcels of land are being utilized effectively and for the designated purpose, and if not, state any plans to utilize them to the benefit of the residents of Bungoma County. C, table the report of the task force set up to identify grabbed land in the county by the then governor of Bungoma County in 2019 and provide a status update on the implementation of its recommendations. D, outline steps taken by the county government to reclaim all public land held by individuals, and E, outline any measures put in place to ensure adherence to the local physical and land use development plan in all public centers in the county. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
That's the end of the statements. We go to the next order.
Order number 8, the Meteorology Bill, Senate Bills number 45 of 2023, division.
Next order, you can see we don't have the numbers for division.
Order number 9, the Houses of Parliament Bicameral Relations Bill, National Assembly Bills number 44 of 2023, second reading.
So under number 9, I can see Senator Buru Oginga is interested to speak on it. Senator Oburu Oginga, we are on under number 9, the Houses of Parliament Bicameral Relations Bill. If you are interested to contribute on that.
On order number 9?
Yes.
No, Mr. Speaker, I did not wish to contribute on that.
Okay. Then where is the move around to reply? Because there is no other senator interested to speak on this. Or we defer to next, we defer to the next, we defer that bill to next week. Next order. Maybe. So next order, number 13. Or yeah, then we.
Order number 10, Committee of the Whole, the Gambling Control Bill, National Assembly Bills number 70 of 2023, division.
Next order.
Order number 11, Committee of the Whole, the Tea Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 1 of 2023.
Next order.
Order number 12, Committee of the Whole, the Statutory Instruments Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 2 of 2023.
Next order. The one she's moving is 12. Okay. So I want to defer from order number 10, 11, and 12. So we go to order number 13.
Order number 13, the National Construction Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 59 of 2022, second reading.
You can now move the bill, Deputy Majority Leader.
The deputy.
It is the Deputy Majority Leader, the Principal Assistant.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the National Construction Authority Bill, National Assembly Bills number 59 of 2022, is now read and second time. Mr. Speaker, sir, the National Construction Authority Bill, National Assembly Bill number 59 of 2022, was published in the Kenya Gazette Supplement number 189 of 2022, dated 18th November 2022. The bill was considered by the National Assembly and passed on 6th December 2023. Thereafter, the bill was referred to the Senate for consideration. The principal objective of the bill is to amend the National Construction Authority Act, number 41 of 2011, to ensure women, youth, persons living with disability can have startup business and can apply to be registered as contractors under categories 6, 7, and 8, while being exempted from paying the prescribed fee. The amendment seeks to provide for the recognition of women, youth, and persons living with disability as marginalized groups and cushion them from the burden of paying registration fees. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the recent past, there have been initiatives to promote the inclusion of women, youth, and persons with disability in the business sector, including the enactment of the Public Procurement and the Disposal Act. This has been done with a focus on providing equal opportunities for employment and access to business opportunities for these groups. It's noteworthy that women, youth, and persons with disability are increasingly taking roles in the construction industry. By exempting these groups from the prescribed registration fees, it will help remove the financial barriers and encourage these groups to pursue entrepreneurship in the construction industry, ultimately leading to the development of more accessible and equitable infrastructure and building, taking into account the needs and perspectives of diverse groups. For this reason, the importance of the bill cannot be overrated. Mr. Speaker, sir, specifically Clause 2 of the bill seeks to amend Section 17 of the National Construction Authority Act to provide that women, youth, and persons with disabilities who apply to be registered by the board as contractors shall be exempted from paying the prescribed fee where the business is a startup venture, and further where the fee does not exceed 15,000 Kenya shillings. Mr. Speaker, sir, in concluding, the passage of the bill will contribute to a more sustainable and socially responsible construction sector. I therefore urge honorable senators to support the important bill. Signed by Senator Aaron Cheriot. I call Senator of Nandi to second.
Senator Chalgei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, as I second, I want to congratulate the Senate Deputy Majority Leader. He is taking over reins of power this week that his boss is not around. Mr. Speaker, this is a straightforward amendment, and I would have expected Senator Tabitha, not Mutinda, Keroche, to tell us, you know, she's one of the best entrepreneurs, and she's the one who prepares your favorite drink most of the time. So I would have expected her to give us...
Senator Mohamed Faki.
My learned friend, Senator Chalgei, referring to Senator Tabitha Keroche.
Senator Chalgei, have your seat.
Referring Senator Tabitha Keroche as Senator Tabitha Mutinda. Yet we know Senator Tabitha Keroche and Senator Tabitha Mutinda are two different distinguished senators in this house.
And he collected himself after that trip of the mount. He collected himself immediately. Maybe you can refer to Senator Tabitha Keroche properly, without mixing names.
My apologies, Mr. Speaker, sir. I think Senator Faki is a bit confused because both Mutindas are from UDA, the ruling party. They are, the Tabitas are both female senators. They are from UDA, they are entrepreneurs, they are married and what have you, and they are beautiful, all of them. So, Mr. Speaker, I think I can understand what Senator Faki is going through. Mr. Speaker, in seconding the bill, I would have expected, as I say, Senator Keroche, the distinguished senator of Nakuru and the future governor of Nakuru, to tell us what she has been doing, the magic she has been doing to build a multi-billion-dollar industry. She is one of the celebrated industrialists in this country, very industrious. She is a leader. She is one of the few senators, female senators that were elected in this house. One on our side, because two actually, because Jubilee crossed over to the majority side, Senator Dulo, and the other side, of course, Senator of Machakos, Senator Kava Mama. So, Madam Speaker, she's among the few. And jokingly on the street, Mr. Speaker, they normally refer that county as Nakuru girls. Mr. Speaker, in supporting this amendment, the work of NCA can be seen. Although, Mr. Speaker, we have had many challenges with NCA. Most of the collapsing buildings. You saw the other day when the floods became too much, a building collapsed within, I think, is it the Nairobi metropolis? And lives has been lost. We have many buildings that are substandard, that are collapsing daily, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as even we push for this amendment, I want to challenge the NCA to do due diligence. Mr. Speaker, I think in future, when a building collapses, the NCA officials must be charged with manslaughter because they are the ones who are approving these buildings. I remember when the Bunge Tower issue came up, we were discussing about certificate of occupation by public works. And these are public works and NCA work together. So Speaker, as the supervisor of both the contractors and what happens at the construction site, Mr. Speaker, you are aware of the affordable housing program of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Ruto. We are going to have enormous Kenyans, and I want to encourage young people, Mr. Speaker, it would not have been a better time for this amendment to come than now. Because one of the better bottom-up economic transformation agenda by His Excellency the President and our government is the issue of affordable housing. And we are encouraging, Mr. Speaker, young people to get to construction. So this amendment, Mr. Speaker, as they say in Bible, there are people like the sons of Issachar who knew times and signs. This is the sign to many young people and women that we have amended the law to give you a leeway to construct companies, to participate. That was viewed, Mr. Speaker, as an industry that was only exclusive for some individuals, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there is construction of economic stimulus plans. The markets that we are building, even in Marimanti, even in Meru, Makutano, many other places, even in Nandi Hills, Kapsabet, Kabiyet, Monsoriat, we are building under economic stimulus plan markets. Even in Kaiboi, we are building economic stimulus plan of markets. It means this decade and this century, Mr. Speaker, sir, belongs to construction and development. So many young people, Mr. Speaker, they always ask, and I want to challenge young people across the country, you need to take charge so that you are not misused and abused by politicians, Mr. Speaker. But personally, I don't do that. But I want to say a few politicians who have selfish interests will want to give handouts to young people. The only way, and I want to challenge my colleagues as Senate here, and even elected leaders, let us assist the young people to register companies. I know, Mr. Speaker, and you know we amended the euphoria on the ACPO, Mr. Speaker, where we say 30% of tender and contract should be awarded to young people. Mr. Speaker, if today, and I want to challenge OAG, Office of the Auditor General, Mr. Speaker, to do an audit, you will be shocked that the ACPO, 30% that should be given to young people, women, people living with disabilities, Mr. Speaker, and I hope Senator Crystal Asike will speak to this. It is not the disabled. It is not the young. It is not the women. They are calling themselves senior youth. You find somebody running a youth company, but they are 70 years, 60 years, Mr. Speaker, and I think this amendment would have come at a better time because we want, Mr. Speaker, not to teach the young people to give them the fish, but to teach them how to fish. And I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, if today young people of Kenya take up this challenge and register companies and competitively get the awards of 30% as per the ACPO, Mr. Speaker, there will be less and no young people to be misused and abused in this country by selfish politicians, Mr. Speaker. Because whenever you go to rallies, you go to mandamanos, Mr. Speaker, the number of young people you get, the youth, are the majority, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I want to challenge the youth, even as they, Mr. Speaker, you know, in this city and many other towns, and I've said, there is what we call a luta. You disappear for 3 days. That is what happening. The young people, they disappear over the weekend, they go clapping, they go reverend, or they kupiga sherehe, Mr. Speaker. But they should know their future waits for them. The only way they can do is to register companies competent, Mr. Speaker. And that is why I want to challenge the Committee of Devolution, or even Public Accounts Committee where I sit. We must do audit to know in counties, for example, in Meru, in the 30% of the budget, how many young people's companies have been awarded tender in Meru, have been awarded in Nairobi, have been awarded in Nandi, in Mombasa, in anywhere across the country, Mr. Speaker, in Wajir, in Garissa, Mr. Speaker, in Lamu, so that as we do the law, let it not be a law on the paper, but it should have a value to many young people across the country, Mr. Speaker. And even startup bill, Mr. Speaker, we process on the startup bill in this country. The law has been, we process a startup bill on how to support. There were proposals even of giving young people tax holidays, tax exemptions, to encourage young people to build on their businesses going into the future. Mr. Speaker, you are aware over 60% of the population of Kenya, which is around 50 million, I know they're thereabout. Mr. Speaker, most of them, as you are aware, these 60%, Mr. Speaker, are young people. But we cannot have, Mr. Speaker, let us be fair. We cannot have the blue-collar jobs across the country that we can give to young people. There are many young people that are going through universities. They are graduating. The others are getting diplomas, degrees. You heard about junior secondary schools. There are 46,000 GSS interns in the country. And I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, even in Meru, and I know you have received SMSs from GSS. Mr. Speaker, I have not been having peace. I have been receiving messages, WhatsApp calls, WhatsApp messages, Facebook updates, Mr. Speaker, Facebook inboxes, Instagram and TikTok, by the junior secondary schools interns saying, what are you doing as a parliament to ensure we are employed on permanent and pensionable terms? I can bet you, Mr. Speaker, those 46,000 interns are young people. You saw the doctor strike the other day. Most of those intern doctors, Mr. Speaker, are young people. And you heard the senator, and it is on record, Mr. Speaker, I shall be applying it to be expunged. You heard Senator Boni Kalwale saying, I went through Gumbaro, Mr. Speaker. And it is unanswered, and the Speaker of the day did not challenge him as a responsibility of fact in Standing 105. I don't have a problem. I might have gotten the grade that Senator Kalwale said, but you should know we are many. If he meant it in bad faith that people who did not go to school are many, then I am happily part of that generation. But, Mr. Speaker, the point I'm making is that there are many interns, and going to Gumbaro is not a problem. There are many people who have become professors, who have PhD, who went through Gumbaro, and they are doing a wonderful job in our societies, Mr. Speaker. I am using an example, the strike that you saw of doctors. 90% of the doctors that were on street and clinical officers that were today demonstrating are young people. We cannot employ everybody. Even, Mr. Speaker, even us as members of parliament, we could not employ ourselves. We had to go to the people to seek for employment, Mr. Speaker. So when I heard young people say, members of parliament saying, why don't you generate employment? Us themselves, as members of parliament, we could not hire ourselves, we could not employ ourselves. We had to go and beg for employment through the vote, Mr. Speaker, by the people, to be employed by the people. We could not employ ourselves. So what I'm just saying is that wherever we are, let us encourage young people you cannot be young forever, to seize up the opportunities. Even this one, registration fee, the fee does not exceed 15,000, Mr. Speaker. I don't think it's a lot of money. It is being fair to the hustlers. I know when they want to do startup businesses, Mr. Speaker, they can do it. It is something that we can remain in focus, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this NCA, when you look at the principle, the Parent Act on Section 17, in conclusion, talks about application for registration. Many young people, Mr. Speaker, to be registered as shall be exempted from paying the prescription registration fee. So in short, and Mr. Speaker, I pray and wish one day, this is what media should be giving headline, even in the national newspapers, that today the Parliament of Kenya through the Senate has proposed a law to ensure youth, PWDs, women, Mr. Speaker, can register free of charge. I'm praying for the day the media will run side stories on that line. Not talking about funny things that I don't want to mention on the floor of the House, Mr. Speaker. That is the prayer that our media, I know media are doing their job, they are exposing their ills, but I want to request them to run both positive and negative. When such a law comes, I expect it to receive prominence as a news so that young people can know we are doing something. Mr. Speaker, politicians and members of parliament are normally being blasted, Mr. Speaker, for doing nothing about the common man. But here we are working. But because we cannot go on the top of the mountain and use a trumpet to tell the world media should assist us, they cover more of negativity, Mr. Speaker. I want to encourage media, as they write other stories, to indicate that Parliament has moved to ensure that in terms of exemption from paying prescription registration fee, And I expect people, this is for hustlers, Mr. Speaker. This is in support of better. This is what we wanted for our country, where young people can be exempted from that, Mr. Speaker. Even in, and I'm happy, I think the other issues, Mr. Speaker, on registration of application for registration remains the same. Like technical qualifications will remain the same. Necessary experience in involving construction, Mr. Speaker, I wish in future, and I know when it comes to the committee of the whole, we need to look at the experience. Because we want young people who go to study engineering, at least, Mr. Speaker, 1 or 2 years. Don't put it much. And that is what we did in the County Attorney Act, where we ensured, Mr. Speaker, that we put in place, Mr. Speaker, an experience. Because how many young people have experience? Mr. Speaker, many young people cannot get to employment because they are being told you must have experience. You must have a guarantee. You must have, in fact, Mr. Speaker, we should be looking even and exploring how young people can access credit. Because you tell them, bring collateral security. When you go home, your title deed belongs to your grandfather or your great-great-grandfather, and the bank wants to loan you collateral security. You don't have a logbook. Mr. Speaker, you have just finished school. That is the pain of most of the young people in this country. They want to do something, but they cannot do it because they need collateral security. They need logbook. They need title deed. They need payslip. They cannot, Mr. Speaker. And you know the jobs, online jobs that, Mr. Speaker, the president is trying to pursue. You can't show, I know banks will take long to adapt. Because if you tell them you are working online, they don't understand how you earn your money, Mr. Speaker. And that is why the president is going to America, other places, to look for online jobs, Mr. Speaker. And that is why the ICT hubs, I know you are a member of National Assembly and constituency ICT hubs, we will build across the country, Mr. Speaker. Even in my place, there is a place called Taptengele, where you press and get dollars through the process of Taptengele technical, then you get dollars. To bankers, they don't understand how can they give a loan somebody who works online. But they need to know that young people are moving it differently. I know there were issue of Bitcoin, but that Bitcoin in the currency, South America country has collapsed, Mr. Speaker. So young people need the support. They cannot have collateral security. They can't have title deed. They cannot have a logbook. They cannot have payslip. And that is why as a nation we must see, and this is one of the ways to rectify, Mr. Speaker, in ensuring that place, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, finally, on this amendment, I agree. This is one of the bills that I have unconditional support towards it, although it comes from the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker. This is one of the brilliant bills. Let us give a chance to young people to feel they are part of us. Mr. Speaker, the reason most young people, and I heard Senator Miraj Abdullah in the morning saying the reason, many people don't know that in your tenure in National Assembly, you are very instrumental in ensuring that Muguka and Mira were put as part of the crop development, and it's a legal crop. The argument was that when you see young people consuming, even during daytime, it's not because there is a job, it is because they are idle. And they say the idle mind is a devil's workshop. I know, Mr. Speaker, there is issue of a hustler fund that His Excellency the President as his pet project of better economic, and we want the young people to borrow that money and put in place and generate their income, Mr. Speaker, through the hustler fund. And that hustler fund, you don't need collateral security. You only need your phone and yourself to be able to get that money, Mr. Speaker. So therefore, Mr. Speaker, I really want to appeal to the young people, women, and people living with disability, Mr. Speaker. Interestingly, Senate, almost 50%, Mr. Speaker, are young people. I expect all the young people in the Senate, including myself, to say something about this bill. Mr. Speaker, we have a number of women senators. I expect them to speak to this bill, Mr. Speaker. We have a number of people living with disabilities or differently able, led by Senator Crystal Asige, Senator Mbugua. I expect them to fine-tune and look at the law and tell us, is it okay? Is it in line with what their constituency wants to look like, Mr. Speaker? Are they comfortable? And that is what I wanted to put in place, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, going into the future, let us amend all laws that is possible within the counties. And I've challenged Devolution Committee, Senator Abbas, the Senator Chairperson, should do an audit. The Finance and Budget Committee, I saw the Chairperson, Senator Captain Ali Roba, Governor. Finance and Budget should table a report on the compliance of 30%. We want to know what Meru, how many companies that belong to young people, even here in Nairobi through Senator Mutinda. And I'm happy the Vice Chairperson of Finance and Budget she's here. She should tell the country how many counties are complying with 30% rule. Even in Nakuru, we want to know how many youthful companies are giving business to young people. Mr. Speaker, and that is the future we want to see, Mr. Speaker. But we should feel encouraged. We are not encouraging young people to do corruption. We want them to do legit, not chemical business like some people would want to do. We want them to do legit, not chemical business, Mr. Speaker, and finish in the words of the great man called Bob Marley, who unfortunately died in cancer at 36 years. And I want to encourage young people, because young people, Mr. Speaker, every day would want to be rich overnight. They want to be instant millionaires. But when Bob Marley was being interviewed, he was asked by a reporter, how many wealth and possessions have you acquired through your concerts and selling of your songs? He asked him, what do you mean? Is it riches, possession, wealth? What do you mean? Then he says, in terms of wealth. Bob Marley answered this, and this should encourage us even in leadership. His riches and true riches and wealth is to have a life full of love and to live forever, Mr. Speaker. With those beautiful words of Bob Marley, may his soul live and Rastafarians don't die. They transit to another world. Encourage young people as I second this bill. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I beg to second.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the National Construction Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 59 of 2022, be now read a second time.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kuchangia mswada wa marekebisho ya sheria ya National Construction Authority, yani shirika linalo simamia ujenzi katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, mabadiliko haya ni mabadiliko ambayo yako wazi na yatasaidia pakubwa kuchangia kina mama, vijana na pia watu walemavu kuweza kupata fursa ya kufanya biashara kama wanakandarasi katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, wanawake na vijana ndio asilimia kubwa ya idadi ya watu walioko katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, wengi wametengwa katika biashara na katika makazi kwa sababu uchumi wetu haujakuwa wa nguvu vile ili kuweza kumchukua kila mmoja. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, hii itatoa fursa ya kuwawezesha wao kufanya biashara ili waweze kujikimu na pia waajiri watu wengine ambao wataweza kufanya kazi katika biashara zile ama kampuni zile ambazo zitakuwa zinafanya kazi ya ujenzi. Mheshimiwa Spika, tumeona kwamba kweli sheria iko, lakini tukiangalia katika utekelezaji wa sheria ile, Mheshimiwa Spika, utaona kwamba mambo mengi yanakwenda kinyume nyume. Kwa mfano, japokuwa vijana wana asilimia katika kandarasi zinazotolewa na kaunti zetu, Mheshimiwa Spika, utapata kwamba wanakandarasi wengi ni watu wazima na wanatumia majina ya vijana kama wakurugenzi katika kampuni zile ili kupatia biashara. Lakini kwa ukweli kampuni sio zao, na pesa zinapokuja vijana wanaenda kupewa pesa kidogo sana kulingana na zile pesa ambazo zimepatikana. Vile vile Mheshimiwa Spika, wanawake wengi wameshindwa kuingia katika biashara kwa sababu ya ukosefu wa rasilimali capital, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na japokuwa kuna taratibu ambazo zimeletwa ama miswada ambayo imeletwa ili kuweza kusaidia, kwa mfano ile inayoitwa Hustler Fund, Mheshimiwa Spika, Pesa hizi za hasla zimekuwa donda sugu na wengi wameshindwa kulipa kwa sababu uchumi ni mbaya na hawawezi kufanya biashara kwa sababu kaunti zetu hazilipi pesa kwa wakati. Serikali pia, Mheshimiwa Spika, hailipi pesa kwa wakati. Kwa hivyo hata wakifanya biashara zile, Mheshimiwa Spika, hawapati malipo ama hawapati faida kama ilivyokuwa inatarajiwa katika kufanya biashara hiyo. Mheshimiwa Spika, vile vile pia wengi ambao wanaanzisha biashara wanapata changamoto nyingi, Mheshimiwa Spika, hususan changamoto za rasilimali, yani mtaji wa biashara ile. Utapata Mheshimiwa Spika, hata kama amepewa kandarasi, lakini kandarasi nataka atoe alipie mali ghafi ama vitu ambavyo atatumia katika ujenzi ama kupeleka katika ile biashara, na hivyo basi wanakosa kufanya biashara hizo kwa sababu ya hizi pesa ama mtaji ama rasilimali ambao inahitajika kuanzisha biashara hizo. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, hii sheria itasaidia pakubwa, na vile vile pia imesema kwamba wale ambao fee ya kulipa haizidi 15,000 waruhusiwe kufanya maombi hayo bila ya kulipa hii fee ya 15,000 ambayo inatakikana. Kwa Mheshimiwa Spika, hii mswada huu utasaidia pakubwa kuimarisha hali ya kina mama, vijana na walemavu katika nchi yetu. Itasaidia pakubwa pia kuinua biashara na kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba watu wengi wanafanya biashara ambazo zitasaidia kuendesha maisha yao kuliko sasa kusubiri kazi za uajiri peke yake ambazo Mheshimiwa Spika zimekuwa adimu sana kulingana kwamba uchumi wetu haukui kama vile ambavyo unapaswa kukua. Mheshimiwa Spika, vile vile kodi mpya zinazokuja usoni pia zitazidi kulemaza biashara katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii.
Next is Senator Mutinda Tabitha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I rise to support this particular amendment for National Construction Authority, Mr. Speaker. And one of the main reasons that I arise to it is what catches my eye on the particular amendment 2A, which is very specific to the special group, that is the women, youth, and persons with disability, Mr. Speaker. As a champion for youth and women, this is one of the amendments that at any time, Mr. Speaker, I will always support. Looking at the two amendments that have been put in place, let me start with the Part B, which says the fee note that should not exceed 15,000, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as Africans we say, if you want to help someone, then just help them. Don't give them the options of, I'm going to help you, but this is the condition, or this is the ultimatum, and all things like that. Because if we want the women and the youth to be able to get the certifications for NCA, then even these particular amounts of 15,000 should be brought down to zero amounts, Mr. Speaker. Or if really need be, because of course there's paperwork, there's an administration cost in place, it should not exceed an amount of about 3,000. You know, this is going to ensure that it encourages this particular special group of people, so that we encourage them to be able to do these businesses. Mr. Speaker, we have organizations and entities like KERA, we have Kenya Urban Roads, we have Kenya National Highway Authority, among others who are also in the real estate construction. And as you can see right now, with the manifesto for Kenya Kwanza on the affordable housing, this is an area that young people are able to get opportunities and become full